This is GARIS Masculist MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. This is flyer number 104, entitled Living Together Apart, a MGTOW Compromise. Description: this flyer describes my relationship with my Chinese wife, which may be informative to MGTOWs because it shows a textbook case of female hypergamy. Flyer itself: living together apart, a MGTOW compromise. Often, reality is more complex than theory. This flyer is about my own lifestyle and relationship that I have with my own Chinese wife, and how it is of quasi-MGTOW type. It illustrates some of the MGTOW theory, for example, women's hypergamous nature, but I hope also illustrates that real life can be more complex and multifaceted than MGTOW theorists make out. I've been living in China for almost a decade, well now it's 11 years. I have a very low opinion of the Chinese, an intellectually sterile culture, a pathetic one homegrown science Nobel Prize, no world-class intellectuals pushing their original ideas on the world stage, a political pygmy nation, still a primitive one-party dictatorship with a government that has murdered 18 million of its own citizens under Mao, whose face is still on the country's money, the greatest single tyrant in history in terms of the number of people killed, 45 million in the Mao famine that he caused, 58 to 62, 27 million in the Laogai, China's equivalent of Stalin's Gulag political prisoner concentration camps, according to Harry Wu, founder of the Laogai Museum in Washington, D.C., who spent 19 years of his life in the Laogai due to a remark he made as a student criticizing Mao. No wonder he hates China. 10 million in the Cultural Revolution and the anti-rightist, anti-professor campaign. 1,000 Laogai in today's China, with between 0.5 and 2 million political prisoners. If you look on Harry Wu's website, the estimate now is between 3 and 5 million political prisoners in the 1,000 Laogai that China today still has. An ultra-conservative culture, the only country in the world not to use an alphabet in its writing. A very mean-spirited, abusive, authoritarian population, etc. Poor, dirty, lazy, disorganized. In other words, a third world shithole. So to stay sane, relatively unstressed and relaxed, I interact with the Chinese as little as possible. I live in a cultural cocoon, living my ARCA, that's after retirement career lifestyle. You may ask, why China, if you see it as such a shithole? I could live in a poorer third world country and take advantage of its much lower cost of living compared to a rich, democratic, expensive first world country. But at least China is smart. Average IQ of 105, and will eventually dominate the 21st century. I like to have some pride in the place I'm living in, just for reasons of self-respect. The hated Jewish bankster Franco-Satanists will soon crash the economies of the US, Europe and Japan, leaving really only Russia and China. So China will probably, within a decade, if I'm still alive, born in 47, be the absolute dominant culture and economy. I do have a Chinese wife though, so I'm not fully MGTOW. The relationship I have with her illustrates some of the main ideas of MGTOW theorists, for example, her hypergamy, but also the complexities of real life. I'll mix these two aspects in my description of the type of relationship I have with her, hoping that it might be informative to MGTOW readers. I suppose you could call me a bit of an intellectual monk. When I first met her 6 years ago, no, 7, I was a full prof and working full-time, earning 2.5 times her salary. I was superior to her in many ways. For example, she was an associate prof. I was a full prof. She had 30 publications. I had 150. She has 0 books. I have 7. I spend my time studying PhD level pure math and math physics to make YouTube lecture course videos for PhD level students around the world for free, to learn these topics for free. She watches soaps on her iPad. I also make electronic libraries, e-libraries, with links to full content, full text books in pure math, math physics, computer theory, philosophy, the brain, sciences, and so on. A few months after meeting her, I got fired from my Chinese university for telling the university president that Westerners would not come to China until the country democratized and gave them freedom of speech, that Mao had killed 80 million of his own citizens, etc. He emailed me back saying I had broken the law, and a few months later my contract was not renewed. My previous Chinese wife had stolen half my savings, which I could not get back in the Chinese divorce courts because they favour their own citizens, so I became rather poor. I could survive on my US professorial pension if I lived modestly. My Chinese wife then began to see me increasingly as poor, and she withheld the sex. I used to tell her that I'm so superior to you in so many ways that you should actually be proud of me because I'm pioneering online education at PhD level in math and physics for free. It was like water on a duck's back. All she cared about was that I was rather poor and that I was living in her apartment. No way would I have a relationship with a fluffy after my experience with my first wife decades ago, who was a half fluffy. So after my first Chinese wife, I made sure that my next girlfriend would be a definite FIP, financially independent person. We used to have bad arguments, and I would harangue her about her small-mindedness, that what I was doing, being a global educator, was very important, and that she should be proud of her husband. A couple of months back, I really let fly at her after she was really bad-tempered for the nth time, abusive and rude. I expressed my utter contempt for her watching stupid 80 IQ soaps all day, even though she's a prof of Chinese ancient literature. After that, she calmed down. I asked/threatened her that if she drove me away with her nagging and bad temper, then given that she's rather fat and mid-50s, it's unlikely she would ever get another man, that she would soon lose her son to the US, which she now has, and the guy stupidly is married and has 2 kids and is a total main slave, is now financially locked into a cage. His own stupid fault. But he's Chinese, so if he keeps his Chinese citizenship, he will not be subject to US law and hence cannot be financially massacred by his wife. Fingers crossed. And her parents in their 80s will soon die, so I'm the only family she has. Does she really want to spend the next 30 years of her life with only the dog? Perhaps that shocked her out of her abusive bad temper, or maybe it was just that finally her menopause finished, so that her hormones stopped messing with her mind. I'm not sure what happened, but she did calm down. So real life can be confusing, more complicated than expected. So now she's calm. Well, it didn't last very long, ad-libbing. And I can tolerate her more. I chose to stay with her to have a bit of companionship. We don't say much to each other because I'm into math and physics and she's into Chinese soaps, each in a different room. We take the dog for an hour's walk each evening. Don't even do that anymore. And that's about the totality of our time doing something together. So you could say we live together apart. She has never travelled, not even to nearby Hong Kong, whereas I've lived in 7 countries, calling myself a top worlder because I speak the top 4 cultures' languages: English, French, German. Having lived in Brussels for about 15 years, je parle couramment le français und kann flüssig Deutsch sprechen. When I was living in the US in the zeros, I lived 4 years alone, feeling totally alienated from the bloody Mormons. I was living in Utah for my US prof job, due to their childlike gullibility regarding their religious beliefs. I used to escape each weekend to Salt Lake City to be with a serial string of non-Mormon girlfriends I met online. I was not very happy. So my current lifestyle is a kind of quasi-MGTOW intellectual monk. As a kind of quasi-MGTOW intellectual monk is not too bad. I get some daily company. I don't pay rent. Well, that changed. I pay rent now. And no sex. But at nearly 70, with testosterone levels low, that's not a big deal. I'm retired and have been arcing after retirement careering for 6 years now, doing what I love. I feel what I'm doing now is hugely more significant than what I was doing as an employed prof at a Chinese university. Before I taught a classroom, now I teach the planet. My YouTube lectures will last as long as YouTube lasts and can be viewed all over the world. I have low expectations of my Chinese wife. She's female. She is hypergamous. She judges men by their financial exploitability. She is a textbook classical case of a hypergamous female, even though she is FIP. I wouldn't be with her otherwise. that is fit. I focus on my arcing, which is my primary activity for the rest of my life, maybe another 20 years. Well, now I'm thinking 30 years, because my father is nearly 98 and healthy. He'll probably get 100. I think I've got my father's longevity genes, so I too am expecting to become a centenarian, so maybe another 30 years, finish ad lib. I can video maybe 100 courses in that time, hopefully revolutionizing PhD level education in pure math and math physics. So far, no one else is doing what I'm doing, that is planning to give students a comprehensive set of courses that take them from senior level undergrad to second year PhD level in pure math and math physics. I also make electronic libraries with links, thanks to Google, to full content, full text books. Wonderful. Revolution. So, I'm not too pissed off. It would be nice to have a bit of sex from time to time, but that's not a big deal. She's calm now, so that's a big plus. So I'll probably stay with her in the Chinese shithole to get my YouTube lecture videos out the door for 2 decades. No, I'm fed up. This is ad-libbing, speaking now, 2017. I'm fed up. It's only a question of time before I leave. I'll finish off some work that I'm doing at the moment, and then I will probably move back to Melbourne, Australia, thanks to the very generous offer of my younger sister, 8 years younger, to whom I was a kind of big brother father figure. When she was 3-4, I was 11, 12. Anyway, so she's offering to buy a 1-bedroom apartment for me and to allow me to live in it rent-free. Very nice. So I'll probably do that. I could live anywhere. I really just need the internet. That's my life. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. YouTube channel name de Garis, Masculist, MGTOW. Cheers. Flies. Cheers.